Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of Dialogue Horizon. In this episode, we will discuss a lot of issues, political issues concerning the condition, the situation in Sudan, the involvement of the tripartite mechanism in the solution now is becoming deeper, and it seems that some outcome of this discussion will appear in the picture in a few days. Anyhow, we have these questions to our friend Professor Manzoul, Abdullah Manzoul. He is known to most of the viewers. He is a professor in the University of Khartoum. He was the director of the Peace Research Institute of Khartoum, and also is involved in many, contributing in many international institutes regarding the peace and the conflict resolutions in the different parts of the globe. Welcome, Professor Manzoul, Abdullah Manzoul.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Professor Manzoul, if you remember last week, President Al-Burhan addressed the nation actually, but from the military base in the north of Khartoum. In that statement, he sent messages, very important and very fiery messages about the political situation, and some people, they think that the speech is primarily against the hostage regime, Congress Party, and the Islamic movement in Sudan, and he added, or he included, the communists. So it was as if these are those who are not to be in the arena or the picture. Definitely, we spoke about the Islamic movement, and he spoke about the Congress Party. Don't dream, he said, don't dream of becoming back on the shoulders of the army, because the army no longer will support you. So people, they consider this as something very abnormal and not expected. What is your evaluation and comment on these statements?
Well, I think there are many ways in which we could see the speech of Burhan in the Hattab military base last week. I tend to look at what he said as serious statements, and he was actually quite explicit. He named the National Congress Party, saying that you've ruled the country for 30 years. That should be enough. And that don't dream of coming back in the shoulders of the military. Two, he also mentioned the Islamic movement, that the army is a national body, it's above politics, it is above political parties. When I listened to Burhan saying this, I wasn't surprised, because just 1 week before this speech, the ousted regime loyalists and supporters organized a demonstration that was against the ongoing political process, that demanded the expulsion of the UNITAM's chief, that was against what they named as international intervention. And not only that, actually the sympathizers or some of the figures of the ousted regime were very explicit and made scathing comments against Burhan himself, personally. They accuse him of letting them down. They accuse him of sitting with the Forces for Freedom and Change Central Council. And I think some of them went too far in criticizing Al-Burhan personally. You know, this is one way of reading the statements of Burhan last Sunday. On the other hand, some of the commentators also are of the opinion that the statement of Al-Burhan were meant for external actors. That
a message to them.
A message to them that we are not bringing the ousted regime back, that we are not bringing the Islamists, and that we are engaging in a political process that would end up in forming a civilian-led government. I think if you look at the process that has been going on, what Burhan said made a lot of sense, at least to me. Because there is an ongoing political process. Al-Burhan and his deputy were supportive of it. The trilateral mechanism was supportive of it. And if somebody is trying to stop this process, I think it was only logical that Burhan's statement are intelligible. This is one. But then there are others who are skeptics, who don't believe in what Burhan says, and they would say that what Burhan said doesn't make any sense, because he effectively, by making the coup and by stopping the work of the dismantling committee, he effectively allowed the former regime to creep back
Yes.
into civil service. He allowed them to regain what they lost as a result of the work of the dismantling committee. So they would say that these statements don't make any sense. They are too late and they are too little. So this is how the statements of Al-Burhan were received.
It had mixed
Yes,
reactions
absolutely mixed reactions.
from different, sometimes from conflicting groups.
Absolutely.
The
Depending on where you stand,
Yeah.
you read what Burhan says.
And also, Professor, he said something which is also, I think, is very important in his speech, is that the army will not be completely out of the picture, he said. Also, this means that in the transitional period, there will be some presence in any, nobody, till now, nobody knows the settlement, to what extent it went, but the army, he mentioned that the army will not completely disappear.
Well,
actually.
of course, I think that is only realistic,
Logical.
because nobody should think that the army would be completely out. This is impossible.
Impossible.
Even if the army goes to its barracks, it will be the institution that would defend the nation against anything.
Yeah.
And should anything happen during the transition, it is the responsibility of the army to make sure
protect
that
and make sure
absolutely,
that
absolutely.
the transition
So
period.
the talk of an absolute exit for the army, I think this is nonsense and unrealistic.
It's not realistic and not pragmatic.
No, it's not practical at all, and that is why I was one of those who have been saying that, the statement of Burhan in the 1st of July was counterproductive.
Counterproductive.
It was counterproductive. And as we speak, the army is effectively part of the dialogue on how to go forward with the transition. So the army is there, it will be there. Of course, it makes a lot of sense that it will have a minimum involvement into the political life in the country, but it cannot be 100% out of it. That's not possible.
So they cannot disappear completely. But as known to everybody, in the real democratic system regimes, different parts of the globe, the army is under the executive.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But we are not in that. We are in a transition.
In transition.
Of course. And transition all transitions are about compromise.
Has to be protected and coached.
Absolutely.
By the army.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, civilians alone cannot.
Actually, it's only logical, at least to me, that the army is co-opted fully to contribute positively to a smooth transition. Instead of trying to put this wall,
Yeah.
we have to make sure that the army is supportive of the transition. That is actually...
This is very important.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, transition will
That
never...
is true. Actually, this applies even for some segments of the Islamists. Those who denounce the terrible things that have been done by the former regime, those who are pro-democracy, I think we need to co-opt them. It makes sense.
Makes sense, yes, sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So if you can bring to your line anybody that's supportive of a democratic transition, anybody that can aid the process of a smooth transition, why not?
This is very important.
Yeah.
But that raises the big question. Many people, they talk the big question of during the negotiations of the settlement. When we'll come to this later, but in the negotiations, people start talking about making some adjustment or refining of the relation between the military and the civilians in the transition period. Last time, before the coup of 25th of October, the relation was not controlled or was not tight enough, which led to the coup of October 25th. So, to avoid falling in the same mistake, this is what a very important thing in the transition period. Things must be very clearly defined and demarcated to between the civilian role and the
Of course, of
the,
course.
the
You
military.
know, people have to learn from their mistakes.
Yes.
And they have to, as you rightly suggested, precisely define the lines, define the type of relationships that should exist between civilians and the military component, so that they will not fall into the same mistakes that were committed before the military coup.
Yeah.
It only makes sense that we need to avoid this.
And you have to avoid one important thing, which was a big mistake. You have to avoid having a hybrid body, like the Sovereign Council.
No, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
It was clear that was not a good model, even though Hamdok was trying to tell the world that this is an exemplar, that this is a good deal, that civilians and the military are cooperating, but it didn't work, and it will not work. And that was why, in what transpired from what's now going on, that the Sovereign Council would be headed by a civilian.
Headed by a civilian.
Absolutely. So there won't be that combination anymore.
Yeah, sure, mixing it. So, Professor, what do you think? What people now are in a fix? They don't know. They all agree that there should be quite clear definition between the role of the two army and the civilians. So, as a man of peace and conflicts, and from your experience, what is the best in such transition period? What do you think? What is the best combination of activities, or the best role to be stated clearly in any document to govern the rest of the
well, the army,
how can we avoid conflicts?
No, I think if probably we will get into the details of this as we speak, but if what transpired is true, that the document prepared by the SPA is looked at as a basis for a political settlement, that document has detailed the kind of things you're asking about.
Yes, it has the details.
It has
of the role of each component.
Absolutely. Things were detailed there. The military should not be involved in politics. And by the way, even the police and the security forces would be under the Prime Minister, and the Minister of Defense and the Minister of Interior would also be under the Prime Minister. So the military doesn't have a veto.
Even the Defense Minister?
Of course. They don't have a veto even in selecting the Defense Minister and the Interior Minister. So things are quite clear. Of course, this is if and only if that document is going to be agreed upon and is going to be the basis for political settlement.
So the document, you think that is that comprehensive, inclusive, everything will be there, or also it will have some loopholes?
Well, the thing is, one of the ironies is that what we know is that the military component looked at the document of the Sudanese Bar Association's steering committee. They put some comments. They called the trilateral mechanism and the Quad for a meeting. They told them, these are our comments on the document. You take this and try to talk to other political actors in the country. And the understanding is that the trilateral and the Quad should try to lobby and bring more people around the document in such a way that a critical mass is created that such a critical mass would be sufficient for a political deal to be sold to the Sudanese people.
Yes.
That is what's happening as we speak. And if this is true, then we have seen the document of the Sudanese Bar Association. We haven't seen the things that were inserted by the military, so we cannot know exactly what happened. But it looks like a document is there. The Quad and the Trilateral are now very much engaged in meetings with the different political actors. They're trying to see what they can make out of this document. And all this shows that something is going on, and that probably we're looking at some kind of political settlement not very far from now.
So, in this respect, let me ask you a question, a very important question. Maybe people they are. Everybody talks about when they started the word settlement, not agreement. Usually, we used to have people that sit together to come to an agreement, but now they call it settlement. As I know, as far as I know, settlement is something between two partners. Each one should give in some of the demands. And again, it might be maybe some incentives or some pressure against. But why is it called settlement?
Well, the thing is, we have seen a lot of initiatives. I think we have seen like 11 initiatives.
Yes.
But this one, the Sudanese Bar Association, is the only one that was able to bring around support. A lot of people support it,
Internally,
nationally
externally.
and internationally.
Yes.
And if we look at it this way, then there is a possibility for a settlement. Settlement is something that is done when you have a critical mass that is good enough to move forward with something. You cannot have everybody to agree to this document. This is not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. Not everybody will sign to this. And we have already seen the former regime people and Islamists who are against it, and they are trying to abrogate the whole process, because they feel that this is something that is an affair between the military and FFC Central Council, which is not true, because there are other actors that are joining. And to be very frank with you, probably we have been saying this a lot, but it will not harm if we repeat it. The situation doesn't allow, not doing something. The economic situation is really becoming very difficult, and if there is any possibility for a political settlement that will take us a step forward, why not? In transitions, there will always be contestations, there will always be disagreement, and nobody would get all that they are asked for, or they ask for.
They cannot get all.
No. So there has got to be some kind of a compromise.
Which leads to
now, what transpired also from what we hear in the media, that the military leaders are asking for immunity or guarantees. That is something, and probably that is why both of them, the FFC, Central Council, and the military, they tend to keep what they are into as a secret. And personally, I don't think this is going to happen. They need to have the guts, the courage to come out and tell people this is what we agreed on, this is what we disagree on, so that people can see how to overcome the areas of disagreement. It's only natural that somebody asks for immunity or for guarantees or whatever, and it remains to be seen how this could be overcome. And I am one of the persons. I'm not belonging to any political party, so I feel like I am entitled to whatever point of view I take. So from this stand, I say that I am one of those who stick their neck out and say that if immunity is the price of taking us forward with the transition,
let it be.
And we have, the thing is, we really have to avoid getting locked into one dock.
Yeah.
and saying no, because we cannot afford to say no all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure this will not be taken lightly by a lot of people. People would be angry about this, but that's how I see things.
Maybe
Because transitions, all of the time, are about compromises.
about compromise, yeah.
Painful they may be, but they could be a step forward. And as we move on, we will see how we can deal with this.
That's why maybe, Professor, ironically enough, the opponents of the the expected settlement it's growing different ideologies and different parties, political parties, even the resistance committees. That's why yesterday I saw the tripartite, the mechanism, they sat with the RCC, because in most cases this is going, the settlement is going to the direction of the revolution.
No, and that is one of the puzzling things about the whole thing that's happening in this country. Take the Islamists. They're against this political settlement,
Yes.
while they were supportive of the military coup and supportive of Burhan. You know, if you look at all these things, they don't add up.
Never.
They don't add up.
They never.
Even some of the Yuba signatories, they were part of the military coup, whether they like it or not, whether they deny it or not. They were supportive of the military coup.
Yeah, they were supportive.
And now, they're against the military, against the settlement that is being accepted so far by the military. So
But a lot of
we are living in a lot of confusions.
It's confusion. But I heard 2 days ago also the chairman or the president of the revolutionary movement, Dr.
Hadi Idris.
Hadi Idris. I heard him. I heard in a speech that, which is something positive. He said the Bar Association, the draft of the Bar Association could be a good base on which we can build, which is something good.
Al-Hadi Idris, Al-Tahir Hajar, even Yasser Arman. He said it clearly that we have our own reservations and point of view about this document, but we are open to have it as a basis for political settlement.
As a start, as a base for...
Exactly.
That's what,
so the point is that if you have a document that can bring a critical mass to start a process of a political settlement that would put the transition in track, I think this should be
the case.
held. Yes.
Also, Burhan, Professor, we forgot also in his speech, he mentioned something maybe not very explicit, but not implicit actually, that he mentioned in his speech that the people, the army will not be siding any political party or any ideology. At the same time, they are supporting the gallant revolution of December 2018 and the youth. He mentioned the youth. This means that he's also started to lean back to the revolution, or to a new discourse actually.
Well, the thing is, the change that happened is a fact now. It's a reality. Nobody can deny it.
Yes.
And I think even some of the Islamists or the former regime's loyalists, they know this fact. That they cannot undo what happened, that things have changed substantially and dramatically. Yes, and they have to rethink a lot of the things that they're thinking about. Now, Burhan's statement is also, as I said earlier, a guard against the fact that people were criticizing the chairman of the Sovereign Council as condoning a lot of what the Islamists are doing. And that is why also he tries to come out clean and tell the people that we are not siding with any political party. Whether that is true or not, but that is, I think, a response to the criticism, and that's what he said anyway.
And also the important thing is the tripartite mechanism and the international community. Now they are being considered as enemies to the Islamic groups, different Islamic groups, and to the Ottoman regime relics. They consider them as enemies because they think that the mechanism and America and others, they are supporting the revolution and so what do you think the draft now, the draft of the Sudanese Bar Association is getting some momentum and it's getting some acceptance, but still there are people who are against it. So does this mean that when they take a decision, it seems that they are fed up maybe of having a consensus? Now, one of the tripartite members, he said that they cannot wait, and it definitely not a consensus. It is a settlement, not for a consensus, because this means that they are going to get one side, and that's why they are trying to maximize the number of factions. Yesterday they held it with revolutionary committees. By the way, revolutionary committees are not all in one body, different geographical locations, different. They have different views. So they can track some of them, but still there will be some opposition. So
no, I think first of all, let me comment what the trilateral mechanism is doing, and of course also the Quad. They're really providing the or they represent a traction. They are trying to push this process forward. And I think we shouldn't be elusive about the role of the trilateral or the UNITAMS in particular, because UNITAMS is here to support the process of transition.
Yeah.
And if there is somebody who doesn't want the transition to go forward, it would make no sense to look at them as supportive of the trilateral. That is, common sense. A lot of people, the Islamists, the former regime, they look at this as against their wishes. So that, to me, that is only obvious. But the point is that the trilateral mechanism, they're really doing their utmost. They're talking to each and every political actor as a first stage, and then they would try to bring people together at one point, and maybe, and this is my point of view, that the trilateral from now onwards should try to be more proactive. Instead of waiting for people to come together and talk, they should provide some kind of a motion or traction for the whole process. And I think they are now doing this. I saw an article that was allegedly written by the three of them, Bil'aish and Volker and Ismail Weiss, which is quite encouraging. They explain the process that's going on, and also they told the Sudanese people that by the way we look at things as they happen, we will probably, more than any time before, close to a political settlement, which is quite encouraging, which is quite useful. And the question about consensus, I don't think we will have consensus.
Never.
This is not going to happen. But
happen.
Again, as I said, if we succeed to build a critical mass around this process, then that should be a sufficient basis for a political settlement.
But at the same time, I agree with you, fully agree with you, that a consensus is almost difficult or impossible, actually. And even the mechanism now is going in the direction of domination. Some they will stand by the big bloc and leave the others and try to see the reaction. Because one of the reactions, this is my question, last week, some of the armed struggle groups and some of the parties, they formed a new body they called Freedom, they call it Freedom and Change Democratic Bloc, something new. They added just Democratic Bloc to the FFC, the Force of Freedom and Change. They call it Freedom, Change. This includes almost all armed struggle parties, plus the sect parties like Ja'far Marani representing the DUP, the Democratic Unionist Party, and also some of the Sufi sects, those who were around the JID initiative. Now they form another body preparing themselves for the outcome of the settlement. To what extent do you think this will pose a threat to the...
No, I don't think this is something that is going to be a threat to the process, because we have seen this type of thing many times. We have seen like 11 initiatives. We have seen a number of declarations that were signed. We have seen a number of these kind of things in the Friendship Hall. We have seen Minawi and Jibril and others party to a lot of these kind of similar things, and nothing happened. You see?
Yeah.
So this is yet another way of expressing discontent to what's happening, but I really don't think that this is going to stop the process. It's not going to stop the process. And what I read is that the settlement that is going to be based on the SPA document is going forward.
Going forward.
It's going forward, and I think the trilateral and the Quad, they are trying to bring more people around it. And I think a couple of days ago I saw Mohammed Hassan Mirghani, the brother of Jafar.
Yeah, he signed another...
He signed something.
He signed on the Sudanese Bar Association.
Exactly, declaration. So you have people increasingly coming, and I think if the motion that is started by the trilateral and the Quad continues, I think we will see more people signing to this, and maybe we would get some sort of a settlement before the end of the year.
Okay, so what about this new body? It seems that it's adding to the confusion. Everybody is confused. I read in the, as I told you before, that something right in the sticker: if you are not confused, you are misinformed.
Yeah.
Now, if you are informed, you will be misinformed.
The thing is, I think at the end of the day, this thing will fall into its constituents. You will have Jem, you will have Minnawi, you will have Jafar al-Mirghani. I think they will go back to their political parties, and they will be part of other processes. That is my reading.
Part of other processes.
Yes, I don't think this bloc is going to stay for long.
Cannot stay.
I don't think so.
Is it a replacement to the consensus, national consensus, they call it, force the freedom change? The other one, just the
FFC2.
Yeah, FC2 now?
I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. And that's why I'm saying you there is a lot of confusion. And these people have been signing a lot of things over the past few months since the military coup. They have been signing a lot of things, but nothing of the nothing credible or important materialized out of that. So I don't have any reason to believe that the latest thing signed by Minnawi and Jafar and Jem and others would really be effective or be different than the previous ones.
So what is your reading for the immediately at the onset of announcing the new settlement, which is it's supposed to be very soon, which will be followed by formation of the cabinet,
Well, my reading is they are not going to go for a settlement if they don't have enough for critical mass. That's sufficient to make them announce that a settlement is reached.
What is your assessment till now?
They are doing well.
The critical mass is growing?
Yeah, it is growing. That's my reading. It is growing because it's gaining support, and by the way, even internally. Internally, a lot of voices are now coming saying that we should probably be open to a political settlement, because we cannot allow this, situation to drag and continue indefinitely. Things will get more complicated, and as you rightly suggested, even the resistance committees, they are now more open.
Yes,
to a political settlement,
yes,
than their previously held position of the three no's.
Yes.
So we are looking at a very good possibility, and that was why I said I comment what the trilateral mechanism and the Quad are doing, because they are really trying to push things forward so that we can get some sort of a political settlement.
So you don't think it will have some upheaval?
No.
Very in the streets. I mean, if it's announced and these parties, I think some of the parties started now, the armed struggle people, they started by the comments or by statements of Al-Hadi Idris and Hajar. It seems that they are a little bit leaning to going to this Sudanese Bar Association as a base which is something good. So will there be any threat to the transitional government if it is appointed in according to the settlement? The settlement will be
Well,
signed.
first of all, one of the good things about this document is that it did not call for abolishing the Juba Peace Agreement.
Not abolishing?
No, the Juba Peace Agreement will be there. There might be some kind of revision, some kind of amendment, but the agreement is going to be part of any settlement. And this should be reassuring to the armed groups or those who are signatories to the peace agreement.
Yes.
That the agreement is going to be there. Probably it will be subjected to some sort of revision or of that. And actually, I kept saying that the armed groups should actually be the ones who should ask for revision, because the agreement is now 2 years old and nothing happened. So logically, they should be the one who should be asking for revision of the agreement. Instead of ducking behind it and saying that, no, this is a Hindu holy cow, that shouldn't be touched.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see a political settlement to be threatened by the armed groups. This is highly unlikely to me.
But what about the Islamic groups and now they are openly.
Well, the irony is
inciting people to go.
Yeah, but the irony is they will find themselves allying with the Sudan Communist Party, which to me is quite interesting, because the Sudan Communist Party is having almost the same kind of position with the Islamists. So let's wait and see what will come out of that.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
So you believe that the all indications that a settlement is coming?
Yeah,
definitely.
I think
around the corner.
That is my reading. It will not be as easy as a lot of people would think, but I think at the end of the day there will be a political settlement, because the two important components, the military and FFC Central Council, are for it. And let us not forget the fact that whether we like it or not, these are the two key players in the scene now. Of course, there are a lot of others, but these are the two key players, and their vision is getting momentum and support, internally and externally. And that is what makes me think that we are looking into some sort of political settlement.
But still the FFC is represented by 4 parties till this moment. There are some parties, Islamic groups, they are not against. Like Kamal Umar is openly.
He is with them. The Popular Congress Party, at least some of its key leaders, they are with the process, they are with the settlement. They are supporting it.
Who, by the way, who is going to settle? Who is going to sign the settlement? Do you have an idea who?
I have no idea. And I don't think this is going to be
signed.
Not like the one that was abrogated by the military coup. I really have no idea who is going to sign, but probably we will not see signatures.
Maybe.
Probably.
Nobody can dare to sign.
Probably.
But nobody. Who is going to implement it? On what basis?
Well, these are all legitimate questions, and probably if the trilateral mechanism and the Quad succeed in building a mass that is enough for going forward with the settlement, then the answer to some of these questions will appear.
Maybe they will ask for those who are building the critical mass, different parties,
to sign to it.
Sign representative, maybe one from the army, maybe.
Probably.
I think they have in mind somebody has to sign the papers.
No, I think that makes sense. If it is a settlement, there should be signatures.
There should be signatures,
there should be
binding.
But I think let's not worry about that for the time being. Let the process start, and then we see what comes out of it.
Okay, but you are optimistic.
I am very optimistic, and I'm very supportive of this process, because I see this as a chance for us to move forward. I see this as a chance for having a civilian government that would gain the support of
how long will be the
national.
Have an idea about how long will be the suggested transitional period?
Well, I think now it falls between 18 to 24 months, because the SPA document, I think it was talking about 24 months.
Don't you think it is short? If it's a good settlement,
No, it's not short.
why not 4 years?
It's not short. I think we need to go to legitimacy. Because whatever is reached now is some sort of a compromise.
So it will not be definitely more than 2 years.
No,
The new
it
transition.
shouldn't. It shouldn't.
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't be more than 2 years.
Because some people talk about 4 years.
No, no, that's too long. That's too long.
It was
First, it has to be short, maximum of 2 years. It has to have very specific objectives, you know, because the transition government cannot do everything and anything. It has to have very specific things to accomplish before the end of the transition. And this is also something that needs to be agreed upon.
It's too short, 2 years for the. They have two important roles: the economy. They have to go back to the international community.
Yeah, the economy is
IMF,
definitely
the World Bank.
one of them.
Yeah.
And then probably also the preparing the ground for elections.
For election, this
Yeah,
is
that
time
is-
consuming.
Exactly. That is the thing.
Okay. Now, if we go to something different, a different issue, which was in a global gathering in Sharm el-Sheikh last week about the climate change. This is a process. A long time people in the globe are scientists are worried about the speedy changes in the climate of the world. Due to man-made, most of it, some of it man-made, some are natural. And the most hard-hit countries are the vulnerable people of the poor countries. They are hard hit by this change. So, which was attended by dignitaries, by presidents. Can you just shed some light on this conference?
Well, I think climate change is now, you know, something that everybody is taking seriously. We have seen it in this country. I think a few months back we have horrible floods in areas that never experienced floods before. A lot of damage has taken place. We have seen episodes of droughts and high temperatures in Europe and all of that. So this is something that is becoming very serious and people have to take it quite seriously. Now the problem is commitment.
Commitment.
Of course, because if you want to deal with climate change, if you want to mitigate the effects of climate change, there are a lot of important steps that you have to take into consideration. You have to commit yourself to processes that would reduce the toxic emissions. And you remember that President Trump, when he came, he pulled out from the Paris agreement of everybody is taking seriously. We have seen it in this country. I think a few months back we have horrible floods in areas that never experienced floods before. A lot of damage has taken place. We have seen episodes of droughts and high temperatures in Europe and all of that. So this is something that is becoming very serious and people have to take it quite seriously. Now the problem is commitment.
Commitment.
Of course, because if you want to deal with climate change, if you want to mitigate the effects of climate change, there are a lot of important steps that you have to take into consideration. You have to commit yourself to processes that would reduce the toxic emissions. And you remember that President Trump, when he came, he pulled out from the Paris agreement luckily Biden has gone back to it. So, and the problem is that much of the damage is done by the rich countries, because all this is being brought by industrial work, by these big industries, and they don't want to commit to fight that. And the effect, the devastating effect, it falls into the shoulders of people in poor countries.
Poor countries, yeah.
Exactly. So unfortunately, the poor countries has very little to contribute to fighting
Global
this
climate change.
Exactly, global
Effects.
warming, the effects of this. And I really don't see how countries like Sudan could contribute to this. Of course, every little thing counts, but I think the biggest responsibility falls on the shoulders of big and rich countries.
So, because that's why General Burhan, he mentioned that he's very supportive. Sudan will be supporting the initiative of the Middle East Green, because Sudan has the land, has the green, has the forest, has everything. It has to contribute
Yeah.
to this. But the other thing, which is maybe the last question, the people, they think that in the vulnerable groups or poor countries, there are some are man-made. The global effect is aggravated by the two things: the civil wars going on in different parts. In Sudan, we are suffering from the civil wars from time to time between tribes and between, plus the natural like famine, and the diseases. These are the three factors that are hitting the poor countries.
True.
So how can
No, true. Of course, you know, civil wars destroy the environment. We all know this. They curb production because instead of staying in the countryside producing food and good quality food, organic food, people end up being displaced into the bigger cities and towns, and the areas are deserted.
yes.
So civil wars, I think the first priority is to stop civil wars, and then I think other things could be started after that. But I think the number one priority should be addressing problems of wars.
So
Because if you cannot silence the gun, you cannot do anything else.
you cannot do anything else. You cannot grow. You cannot breathe. Because like we are in the region, the poorest region maybe in Africa, which is East Central Africa.
Right.
East Central. These people, this region, it's full of problems
and civil
other
wars.
than the climate change.
Sure.
So
Sure. They
climate-
already have enough problems.
They already have enough problems. So when it comes to climate change, to Professor, thank you. I think we covered this. But let us go back. Give us your overall picture of the situation. People are a little bit worried. People are skeptical. People are afraid of the future. Can you give us some few words about from what you see?
Well, I think
how things will go?
we have reasons to be optimistic. We have a process that's going on. We have a document that is now being looked at by a lot of people. A document that was accepted as a basis for political settlement by FFC1 and by the military. The Trilateral and the Quad are engaging with different political actors to move the process forward. So we have an opportunity, and I think we should do our best that we make the best out of it, so that this country moves forward with the transition.
Why is America, last question, why America is putting full support or heavy weight on resolving the conflict in Sudan?
Well, I think if you looked or read the tweet by the U.S. Foreign Secretary,
That's why I asked
Anthony Blinken, on the
yeah.
anniversary of the coup, he made it very clear that it's time for Sudan to have a civilian government. Of course, the U.S. has its own interests. The U.S. is not a charity, but it is in its interest that there is a civilian government, because the Americans are also worried about the Russian penetration into the continent, and not the least in the Red Sea and the Sudan. So it is in their own interest to have stability, to have a political settlement, to have a civilian government that they could work with. And they said it very clearly that if you have this settlement, then we will resume our support, we will resume the economic reform, and that at the end of the day will lead to stabilizing the economy, and this country will move forward.
Do you think that will move forward if supported by the These countries and America. America also is afraid of the Red Sea.
No, that's true.
The desire of the Russians to have.
The thing is, without the support from the Gulf countries, the only other way is to have good relationship with the international financial institutions. And it was made very clear that without a civilian government, forget about receiving anything.
Okay. Okay, thank you, dear Professor Manzoor Abdullah Manzoor, for being with us in the hour of these important issues. Thank you, dear viewers, for being with us in the last hour or so about very important issues which were thoroughly answered by Professor Manzoor Abdullah Manzoor. Hope to see you next week in a different episode of Dialogue Horizon. Bye.